As some of you know, I always have been, and most likely always will be, a really big fan of the covered call ETF by the name of JEPQ. It's a monthly dividend-paying income ETF issued by JP Morgan, and it essentially tracks the returns of the NASDAQ 100, but instead through its covered call option strategy, pays out most of its gains in the form of both premiums and dividends every single month. And even after a long 2-year rally that the NASDAQ has had, JEPQ still has a dividend yield of 9.58%. This means that you'd be averaging around $1,000 a month in dividends with $100,000 invested into this ETF. It also has a lot of exposure to capital gains as well, giving it a total 2-year return of over 70%, outperforming the S&P 500 by over 10 percentage points. So needless to say, I think it's a great ETF for someone seeking consistent income while still receiving exposure to fairly high growth. Now, as much as I absolutely love JEPQ, there's a new, very similar ETF that might just be a little bit better. And the reason why I say that is because it has a current dividend yield of 10.06%, so you're getting just marginally more income every month. So this ETF is called GPIQ, or the Goldman Sachs NASDAQ 100 Core Premium Income ETF. And something that you'll notice too is when a big financial institution creates a financial product like an income ETF, very soon after, a similar institution or a competitor will come out with the same type of product. So this is kind of an example of that, but that's just a side note. And as I'm comparing these two ETFs, I'll try my best not to mix them up, because even their names sound extremely similar. Try saying JEPQ versus GPIQ 5 times fast. But anyway, the biggest differences between the two right out of the gate is that GPIQ has a little bit lower of an expense ratio. Its current expense ratio is 0.29%, whereas the expense ratio of JEPQ is 0.35%. So again, very slight differences there, but you will over time be saving more in fees with GPIQ. Another big difference between the two funds that to me isn't extremely important, but still worth noting, it's that JEPQ is much larger of a fund, most likely because of its age. It's a little bit older, so JEPQ currently has an AUM of just under $21 billion, whereas GPIQ, with it of course being a lot younger of a fund, has only an AUM of $363 million. And both these funds are rapidly growing when it comes to total assets, so there's a chance that GPIQ will get to that multiple billion-dollar range within the next couple of years. And something that I really like about both of these funds is that because their dividends are paid out monthly, it ever so slightly reduces the risk and volatility comparing it to their underlying stocks. So if we pull up the charts here, you can see that the drawdowns for the QQQ are a little bit more aggressive than the other two income ETFs. And to me, this is kind of a win-win, because when the underlying index falls, let's say a couple of days before, or even a couple of days after you get that dividend paycheck, you can use that cash to buy more shares at a lower price. Now, when it comes to the income for GPIQ, since December of 2023, it's been paying an average of about 38 to now 43 cents per share every month. This means that if you had about $10,000 invested into GPIQ, you'd be paid roughly $90 a month in dividends. And of course, as you reinvest those dividends and buy more shares, that number just keeps going up. So as of right now, GPIQ, because of its dividend yield and its lower expense ratio, can be considered ever so slightly better than JEPQ. But there are things to consider, like the fact that its inception was during a bull market, and oftentimes when these funds are new, they tend to pay higher yields. So going forward, we will have to really watch and see if GPIQ continues to perform and pay out those high dividends every month, because it is still a fairly new fund. As for me, I still prefer JEPQ, but maybe it might be a good idea to kind of split it up between the two funds. So let me know what you guys think of GPIQ so far, and whether or not you'd consider it over JEPQ, or if it really doesn't matter because of how similar they are. And if you guys like videos like this, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and I will see you all next time.